Hello, it's Duncan. The owner of the Gilded Rose Magical Goods Store is delighted with our progress adding sulfurous magical item, and she'd really now like us to add aged Brie so she can sell that. And so she's written a story, and it's quite simple. It says aged Brie gets better with age. And you see here she said it increases in quality by 1 every day until its sell-by date, then 2 after. And its quality doesn't go up above 50. So, without further ado, let's get on with that story. We are test-driven developers. This is new functionality, so we need a test. And our current tests are in this updating tests file here. And so I think we'll just go ahead and add a test. So duplicate one that's there already. And we will write what she said. At least part of it. So, aged Brie increases in quality by 1 every day until its sell-by date. And what does that mean? Well, if we started with an item that was aged Brie and had some sell-by date, we've been using October the 29th, and if it was updated on its sell-by date, then we would expect to get back the same item but with a quality of 43. Now we don't expect that to pass, but let's just run all our tests. And if you've been following along so far, I've made a little change, and that's to only show the tests that fail in order to save me having to scroll up and down. So I've clicked, I think, one of these little buttons here. Okay, so we have one test that fails. We ran, actually let's run all of our tests just to give us some confidence. But even there, as we expect, we've got one test that fails, and that is the one we just added. So let's see what we can do. Let's have a look in our item class, which is where the update happens at the moment. And we had this function here, this method update on, and this is where we normally degrade items. So let's do the absolute simplest thing we can think of to make this pass, which is to say if our name is aged Brie, then we want our degradation to be -1, which is the opposite of degradation, I suppose. But let's just say that. See if we can get that to pass. I'll just reformat it. Badly it turns out. Let's move that down there. Let's see something in the structure of it. Let's run that and see whether it passes. Okay, it does. That's good. But looking down this function, this looks like a bit of a dead end to me, because we know we've got some logic in here that will be different for aged Brie, and we know that this coerce is going to be different for aged Brie. So I think maybe instead of implementing this way, we will add another, basically just copy this method. So let's undo that as a bit of a dead end. It got us working, but let's go back here and let's duplicate this method, and we'll call this update Brie. And a bit of a punt, we'll just go straight with what we think the Brie's behavior is, which is that if the sell-by date is null and we've got nothing, don't know whether we can get aged Brie with a null sell-by date. Maybe we should speak to the customer. We know that it's going to go up by 2, otherwise up by 1, depending on the sell-by date. So we could just, for aged Brie, we could just add this, change this to a plus. And maybe we can change this to coerce at most, because we know it's going up, and it feels a bit odd because we are working without any tests to show us we need to do this, but on the other hand, it's expedient, it feels reasonable. So this is not degradation, it's improvement. And so what we could say in update here is we could now use this to say if our name Brie. It's not a great structure, but it feels a bit better to me. Doesn't pass its test though. Why not? We expected that the quality would be 43 and it was actually 42, but I have messed up that. So let's run that again. Put the space in. Okay, well, we've got confidence that the tests are testing well and we have fixed them. Now we've got a whole lot of untested code there, courtesy of that copy, so let's create some tests for it. So another test is that aged Brie increases by quantity by 2 every day after it's sell by date. What does that mean? Well, if we updated on October the 29th plus a day, and we started on 42, we'd expect 44. Run that. Good, so we've just tested the functionality we copied and pasted really. And now the limit, we could say aged Brie doesn't get better than 50. So if we were to start an update on October the 29th, we know that its normal behavior would be that if it was 50, it would become 51, but it will stay on 50. Just for completeness, I think we'll check it on October 29th plus 1 as well. And we'll check on we'll check for 49 and check that it goes up only to 50, because that's the sort of little edge case in there. Okay, so our logic is good, and it's now just the structure of our code which isn't brilliant. What don't we like about it? Well, there's something odd about this early return, and these two bits of code are at different levels. So this one is inside a function, this one is not inside a function, it's at this level here. So I think we should take this thing and make it a method itself, and we'll call this update standard. So we've got update Brie and we've got update standard. And then this can be an else. And then we can pull that out of the if. So let's run that. Okay, so now we've got code that's at the same sort of level, which is nicer. Little fix just to make that a single expression. And show the structure like that. Right. Now there's something a little bit unsatisfactory about this if. I think as a general rule we'd rather avoid if statements for things that don't change. And the name of an item is never going to change in its lifetime. So I wonder whether we can pull the strategy of what happens, how we update, into its construction rather than happening here at a method every time we call update. What would that look like? Well, I'm wondering if we were to have a value in here, and I'm going to call it updater, then we could set that to be a reference to this update function. So it would be this update. And we could call that in here. So the type of this is a function. Let's have a look. Nasty function. In fact, it's that, which is much nicer. And we can call that in here and have the same behavior. So let's run that. Good. And now let's inline this update. In fact, let's inline this update. And that behavior again will be the same. And now we can move the check for the name outside this block. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this out of here. And we're going to say if the name is aged Brie, then the value of this property is going to be our update Brie function. Else it's going to be our standard update function. Just format that so we can see it. And run it. So what we've done now is we've moved the check. We've moved the check from when we actually call the update function to deciding on the update function. And now maybe just move this up to the sort of top level of the class so people can see it going on. Now our update functions could actually be moved out of this class. So at the moment they are update standard and update Brie. We can move them out of here, but make them extension functions. So if we say this is item update standard, and this is item update Brie, then they both compile fine, but our references have to change here. Actually, interestingly, they don't. I would have bet that we would have had to say item update Brie there, but it turns out that we don't. How on earth does that work? Well, that's very interesting. I did not expect that. I expected to have to say that this updater is a thing that takes an item as its receiver, and then this would be item update Brie, and this would be item update standard. These being the references to the extension functions down here. What in fact happens is that if we take away the receiver, then it is resolved in the context of this, which I'm not sure I understand, but turns out to be quite nice for us. Now there's something still not quite right about this class, because as we add different types of item, we know we're going to end up updating this class itself rather than something else, and we would rather, in open closed principle terms, that we didn't have to modify this class as we add different types of items. But I think at the moment, given that we have functionality that works, that we should wait until the next problem we have. We only got one little problem here. When we get our next magical item, we can address that. So as it's Friday afternoon here, I think I'm going to check this in, push it to production, and we can all have a good weekend. If you want to see the next magical item, then please subscribe. If you like this, then press some button and I'll get a little dopamine hit. And if you have enjoyed this, then you'll probably like the book that I wrote with Nat Price called Java to Kotlin, a Refactoring Guidebook. Links to the book are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching.